Okay. This book is called Where the Sunrise Begins by Douglas Wood. And we'll talk a little bit how this connects with Donovan's sermon at the end of the book. The world is always turning toward the dawn, and although nights can be dark and long, each day brings a brand new sunrise. But where does the sunrise begin? Some say it begins on the mountain so high above the earth that you can see the sunlight before it ever touches rivers or lakes or forests or prairies, all lying far below. Here the first morning candle burns away the darkness. But the mountain is not where the sunrise begins. Some say it begins in the treetop, where the birds notice the first soft light and begin to sing, each in their own way with their own melody, waking the sleepy world around them while the first breeze shivers the smallest leaves. But the treetop is not where the sunrise begins. Some say it begins in the marsh, where drowsy ducks shake their heads and fluff their feathers, and test their wings for the day's first flight, and speak in soft, murmuring tones about the things that ducks know, while the muskrat glides silently through the cattails. But the marsh is not where the sunrise begins. Some say it begins on the lake, where fish rise and dimple the smooth, glassy surface, where the water rises and falls as if breathing, and chuckles in the hollow places along the rocky shore, and someone on the dock plops in the first bobber of the day. But the lake is not where the sunrise begins. Some say it starts upon the great rolling sea, over waters deeper than the highest mountains, on oceans that enfold and encircle all the earth and make life itself possible, where ships have long sailed into the great unknown, and where travelers know the ancient saying, "Red sky at morning, sailors take warning." But the sea is not where the sunrise begins. Some say it begins in Africa, where life first arose and walked on two legs and spoke its own name, where the bones of a being who lived 1,000,000,000 sunrises ago wait for the sun and for someone to find them and learn their ancient story. But Africa is not where the sunrise begins. Some say it begins in the Far East, the land of the rising sun, where people have long greeted the day with prayer and meditation, and the sound of a gong, where the sky blooms with the first light, and the bonsai trees cradle the sun upon tiny branches. But the Far East is not where the sunrise begins. Some say it begins in the Middle East, where the light of many great religions first shone, where Abraham and Moses and Muhammad and Jesus walked and listened for a still small voice, a voice that people argue over yet today, in a land known as holy. But the Middle East is not where the sunrise begins. Some say it begins in our own native land, where the first light falls upon the scenes that are known and loved, where people speak a familiar language and act in familiar ways, and where the rest of the world seems a bit strange and far away. But our native land is not where the sunrise begins. Then where does the sunrise begin? Because the world is always turning toward morning, every moment brings sunrise to someone, somewhere in the world. Wherever there's a heart that loves the light, that holds a place for hope, and feels gratitude for each new day, in that heart the sun is always rising and helping to fill the world with light. Where does the sunrise begin? The sunrise begins in you. This morning, Donovan preached about Ezekiel and dry bones and finding hope in God's new beginnings. Whether it's the dry bones of Ezekiel or the sunrise of each new day, there is hope out there. And my hope is that you as a family will talk this week about where you see light, where you see hope. Take a picture, draw a picture, email it to me or text it to me. I would love to see where you as a family see light and see hope. Have a great week and know that you are loved.